In the small, close-knit town of Harmony, there was a peculiar phenomenon that had been going on for generations. It was said that every woman in Harmony, at some point in their lives, had the urge to finger their private parts under the comfort of a blanket. This strange tradition was passed down from mother to daughter, and although it may seem unusual to outsiders, it was a deeply ingrained part of the town's culture. The women of Harmony believed that this practice had healing properties, both physically and emotionally. They believed that by touching themselves in this way, they were able to release any negative energy and reconnect with their own bodies. It was a ritual that was often done in secret, under the cover of darkness, and it was a practice that brought the women of Harmony closer together. One woman, in particular, had been carrying on this tradition for many years. Her name was Margaret, and she was a wise and respected member of the community. She had learned the practice from her mother, who had learned it from her grandmother, and so on. Margaret had always been open and honest with her two daughters, Emily and Sarah, about the importance of this tradition. Emily, the older of the two daughters, was a curious and independent young woman. She had always been fascinated by the idea of this secret ritual, and she was eager to learn more. Sarah, on the other hand, was more reserved and skeptical. She had always been a bit uncomfortable with the idea of touching herself in this way, and she was hesitant to participate. One cold winter night, Margaret gathered her daughters around the fireplace. She told them that it was time for them to learn the ritual and carry on the tradition. Emily was excited and eager, but Sarah was still unsure. Margaret could see the fear and uncertainty in her youngest daughter's eyes, and she knew that she had to find a way to make her feel comfortable. Margaret began by explaining the history and significance of the ritual. She told her daughters that it was a way for women to connect with their own bodies and to release any negative energy that they may be holding on to. She explained that it was a practice that was done in private, under the cover of a blanket, and that it was a way for women to feel a sense of peace and calm. Emily was captivated by her mother's words, and she couldn't wait to give it a try. Sarah, however, was still hesitant. She was afraid of what her friends might think if they found out, and she was worried that she might do something wrong. Margaret could see that Sarah needed a little more convincing, so she decided to show her daughters how it was done. Margaret got up from her chair and walked over to the couch. She grabbed a blanket from the back of the couch and wrapped it around herself. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Emily and Sarah watched in awe as their mother began to touch herself under the blanket. They could see the look of peace and serenity on her face, and they knew that this was something special. After a few minutes, Margaret opened her eyes and smiled at her daughters. She told them that they could try it now if they wanted to. Emily was the first to volunteer. She grabbed a blanket from the back of the couch and wrapped it around herself. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, just like her mother had done. She began to touch herself, and she immediately felt a sense of peace and calm wash over her. Sarah watched as her sister experienced this new and strange sensation. She was still unsure, but she could see the look of joy on Emily's face, and she knew that she had to give it a try. She grabbed a blanket from the back of the couch and wrapped it around herself. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She began to touch herself, and she was amazed by the sense of peace and calm that she felt. From that night on, Emily and Sarah made a pact to practice this ritual together every week. They would gather in Margaret's living room, wrap themselves in blankets, and touch themselves in private. It was a special bond that they shared, and it brought them closer together as sisters and as women. As the years went by, Emily and Sarah continued to practice this ritual, and they passed it down to their own daughters. It became a tradition that was cherished and respected in the town of Harmony, and it was a practice that brought the women of the town closer together. Even though it may have seemed unusual to outsiders, the women of Harmony knew that this ritual was something special, something that connected them to their ancestors and to their own bodies. In the end, every woman in Harmony had experienced the power of this ritual, and it had become a cherished tradition that was passed down from generation to generation. The women of Harmony had found a way to connect with themselves and each other in a unique and meaningful way, and it had brought a sense of peace and calm to their lives. As Emily and Sarah grew older, they became respected members of the Harmony community. They were known for their wisdom and kindness, and they were often sought out for advice and guidance. They continued to practice the ritual with their own daughters, and they taught it to other women in the community who were interested in learning. One of the women who had learned the ritual from Emily and Sarah was a young woman named Rachel. Rachel was a curious and adventurous person, and she was always looking for new ways to connect with herself and her body. She had heard about the ritual from some of the other women in the community, and she was eager to learn more. Rachel approached Emily and Sarah and asked them if they would teach her the ritual. Emily and Sarah were happy to oblige, and they invited Rachel to join them in their weekly practice. Rachel was amazed by the sense of peace and calm that she felt during the ritual, and she knew that this was something special. Rachel began to practice the ritual on her own, and she found that it helped her to connect with her own body and to release any negative energy that she may be holding on to. She also found that it helped her to feel more confident and self-assured, and she was grateful to Emily and Sarah for teaching her this powerful tradition. As Rachel continued to practice the ritual, she began to share it with other women in the community. She taught it to her friends and to her family members, and she even started a support group for women who were interested in learning more about the ritual. The support group was a safe and welcoming space where women could come together and share their experiences and their stories. The support group quickly became popular, and it wasn't long before women from all over the county were coming to Harmony to learn about the ritual. Emily and Sarah were amazed by the response, and they were proud to see how this tradition had grown and evolved over the years. In the end, the women of Harmony had created something truly special. They had found a way to connect with themselves and each other in a unique and meaningful way, and they had created a tradition that would be passed down for generations to come. The ritual of fingering their private parts under the blanket had become a symbol of unity and sisterhood, and it was a practice that brought the women of Harmony closer together.
Please subscribe to my channel Lessons of Life and press the bell notification icon.